Looking at Mr. Tim Holtz, Chapter 3 dies and embossing folders and all those bits and pieces which we know and love. Now, I'm going to go through this quite quickly. If you want to see it in more depth, if you want to find more out about these wonderful dies and products, then check out Tim's video. He's done a wonderful video introducing all the dies. It tells you about his inspiration and how that came about and shows you some wonderful samples from his design team. But without further ado, let's crack on because we've got quite a bit to get through. So first up, we're going to be looking at three sets, and these are alphabets. I'll put these down on the table so you can get a closer look. These are from Tim's Alphanumeric collection. And when Tim designs an alphabet, he makes sure that it works with everything that has come out before it. So everything goes together seamlessly and harmoniously. Now, with these alphabets, what we're getting, so there's the uppercase, alphanumeric shadow, the lowercase, and the numbers and punctuation. But what is so special about these is there is the shadow. That's just the shadow by itself. Then we have the actual letters. Now, that's almost like getting two alphabets in one. That's fantastic. But there is a third way of using them also, which is together. So you can use the letter and its shadow together, just like that. And finally, we have the lowercase. So the lowercase, of course, is sized to go with the uppercase. It's a wonderful size. It really is for card fronts because they are tall and thin. So there's a little example using the letter and its shadow. Here's another one using the lovely Festivities die, which we'll be looking at a little bit later. Then again, using some of the Sizzix opulent cardstock here. That works wonderfully well. The numbers, 25th of December. So again, the numbers, the shadow, and then the letters by itself. So you can mix and match, whatever your style. And then finally, one more. I want you to look at this background here, these stars, because that's going to come in next. I want to show you a wonderful, wonderful die set. Well, not next, actually. It's going to be coming up at some point because it's wonderful. I haven't got a sample for it, but you will see this cropping up in so many makes over the next few minutes. Now, let's tidy those away. I'm going to bring in one of Tim's Colorized dies, and this gives me a good opportunity to talk about Colorize and how it works. It's a very unique concept in die cutting. Each die is etched on the back, telling you or suggesting which colors to use. And each die has emboss marks so that you can get perfect registration every time. And we can look at the dies in the packaging here, and you can see those emboss marks. And there will be on the back there, it will say white number 1, then there'll be white number 2, white number 3. So you can layer these up to get something like that. Now here's a card that our good friend Josh made. And you can see he's layered them, he's used different reds, he's used different shades, he's used some distress ink to get a bit of depth in there. So this is Santa's Wish. That's right, Santa's Wish Colorized. So this is another fantastic addition to Tim's Colorize die sets. Now let's have a look at some other Colorize actually. So I'll move that out and bring in this one. There are 8 dies in the set, and it is called Festive Trims Colorize. Let's have a look at some of the things you can do. First off, this is using, as suggested, with the different layers, with the different colors. Now, Tim has some wonderful cardstock, as do Sizzix. So you can find the colors, you can put them together, or you can ink up just plain paper to create your own colors. It's a lovely, lovely set. Then this is just using craft card, and I've used a brayer to get the effects with some white gesso there. And finally, exactly the same die set, but this time using black card with some gilding wax. And you can see here those lovely stars in the background. Remember me telling you about those? So look out for those. They will be coming up shortly. So let's take that one out and we'll have a look at some other Colorized dies. Now, this one is Papercut Christmas #1. Now, we'll be getting all sorts of Santas over the coming months, but you'll see nothing quite like this. It is so fresh, so modern, so contemporary in its styling. It will give your crafting a real lift. It will give your crafting a point of difference from everybody else. He is so animated, so funky. Check this out. There we are. Oh, stars in the background again. Remember that one? Look at the detail, the level of detail that's in that guy there. And we've used just plain card and inks just to pick that up. Then again, same one, snowflakes in the background. But he gives, I don't know, it's a certain sort of X factor. This guy, he's almost leaping off the card. I myself would love to receive a card like that come Christmas morning. Now next up, Papercut Christmas number 1, of course, leads to Papercut Christmas number 2. And we've got this gorgeous snowman and this absolutely adorable reindeer. Now, if you switch out that nose for a red one, you've got a Rudolph. So again, this is the colorized layering system, and we'll look at some examples. Yeah, that's the first one. And hello, there's that star background again. How about that? So look, we popped a red nose on him. There's Rudolph with his good friend the snowman. And nice and simple. And this snowflake as well. You'll be seeing this lovely snowflake appearing from time to time. So there's the snowman by himself. And finally, Rudolph rocks. A star background again, and our lovely alphanumeric letters. So that is some more of our Colorize. Then, oh, this one is a real showstopper. This is Holiday Village, and again, it's from the Colorize range. This is so much fun to put together. I have made one myself, but this is one which was made again by our good friend Josh. It's got that lovely sky in the background. It's Christmas morning. The bells are ringing out. The gifts around the tree. Absolutely gorgeous. You will have so much fun putting this together. You really, really will. So we'll take that one out. And now, I'm not supposed to have favorites, but this one is a personal favorite of mine. It really is. There are 9 dies in this set. It's called Christmas Brushstroke, Holiday Brushstroke. I'm sorry, I do apologize. So, Holiday Brushstroke, you can see, and this looks like it's been taken with a palette knife or a brush to get these wonderful, vibrant shapes on there. And now, I must apologize here. This is a photograph of a card I made, but I don't actually have the sample at the moment. But you can see the depth, the layers, the colors. This has been put together. Almost, it's not a colorized die, but it's a very, very similar concept. Really, really nice. And something, again, and this is something which we have to thank Tim for over and over, something different, something fresh, something unique. And that gives you, as a maker, something unique to send out to your friends or create a beautiful home decor item. Now this one, I love this, and I'll tell you why. It's called Winter Wardrobe. You've got all these elements, and they are sized to work with many of the colorized dies which we've seen in the last few months. Think of those lovely animals, the giraffe, the bear, the zebra. These are made to work with those. So again, here is something that not to scale, but it does show you how they work, how they go together. There are 11 dies in the set in total, and all these separate little elements. They're gorgeous by themselves, or indeed if you want to use them with some of your favorite die cuts. Now, do you remember Santa's little helper? Well, he's got a little friend, and this is called Thin Ice. Now, you get this wonderful silhouette, and you also get these 2 trees, and I have to be completely honest with you, as much as I like this guy, and I love him to bits, I would get this set just for the trees. There are 6 dies in total, lots of different elements, as you can see, but here's one, just using our friend. And in the background, we've got the stars again, so when that die comes up, you'll know what we're talking about. It's just very monochromatic. We use blues and black there, a few stamps in the background. See that tree? See what I mean? Isn't that gorgeous just by itself? And we just die cut circle for the moon and some of our stencil foam to get that lovely shadow going on there. Then finally, another card created by our good friend Josh. And rather than him skating on the pond, this time he's leaping for joy. It must be Christmas morning and all the hard work is over. We can go to sleep for about 3 months now. We've got our trees going on in the background there. We've got this lovely inked background and the guy just leaping out of the car. Fantastic. That is Thin Ice. Now, one of the things that we've come to expect from Tim is to expect the unexpected. And a lot of these dies, some of them have a very funky contemporary style. This one is what I like to call retro modern. It reminds me of cards at the start of the 1950s. We've got these gorgeous birds, and it's also quite Nordic as well in many ways. We've got the birds, the 10 dies in the set, we've got the baubles, and we've got this die which creates this lovely string effect down there. Let's take a look at some of the samples. So this is using just the baubles and the string die and some of these starbursts. Then next up, this is very much in a Nordic style. We've used those classic Nordic colours, the red, the white, and that lovely grey in the background, and a bit of twine just to set it off. Then, simplicity itself. Two of the birds, the detail that you can see there is made using one of the dies which is intended for the baubles, but I actually used it on the birds in this case. And finally, this is just to show you how they all sit together. So it's one of those, you can use single elements, you can use them all together. Doesn't really matter. It is the gift that keeps on giving. Now, another one, another well, I say another favorite, but they're all favorites really. This one is Holly Pieces, and you get 1, 2, 3, 4 different dies. The great thing about this, sometimes it's not what you cut, but what's left behind. So we can use the dies to create an aperture through which we can ink, through which we can use pastes, and so on and so forth. This one has been inked with Distress Oxide inks, and you can see the word Merry on the top. That comes from a set called Merry and Bright, which we'll be seeing a little later. Then next up, this is what I was talking about. So you can see where I've cut through the white card, and I've placed an inked background beneath the white card to bring that lovely fresh punchy colour out. And then finally you can see again we've used our alphanumeric set there, but this time I've just inked through with antique linen, if memory serves, and then I've stamped through that detail as well. So very simple, very monochromatic. Now remember this guy, this is the one I was talking about, the 4 dies in the set. But the biggest one is the background die. You do get some individual stars as well. I hope you can pick that up there. But it is absolutely wonderful for creating backgrounds. You can use the individual stars, of course. You can use these to cut a stencil. You can cut directly through a dark blue card for your night sky. But it is very, very versatile, and this is one of those dies that you will return to time and time again, just to give you a lovely background, as I think I have illustrated thus far with some of the different samples that we have. Now, we'll take that away because it's time, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to look at winter critters. Now, I see these, I think cake toppers, I think card toppers, tags. We've got the little bear, we've got the bunny, we've got the penguin, and we have our lovely reindeer there. And let's take a look, because what I've made with these is just 3 very simple cards. I didn't want to sugarcoat it. I think it's self-evident how cool these are. They would look great on a make for a young nephew or niece, son or daughter or grandchild. They're just very modern, very contemporary, very fresh, and very funky. But going from the modern, fresh, and funky, we are going to go back into the retro modern style with this lovely die set. There are 4 dies, and it is called Christmastime. Now, I say 4 dies, but all these little elements come within the die set. So all the little trims on the tree, the hands, the faces, the hair, the headbands, the scarf, they are all contained within. And let's take a look. Let's take a look at the project. So, how about that? Very, very simple, very classy, very 1950s, 1960s perhaps. Lovely, beautiful colours. That one, I've used the star background. This time as a stencil. So I've inked through with white ink, and I've also used the stencil to create the light emanating from the lamp there. And then finally, this was one again created by our Josh, a lovely home decor piece. Beautiful, beautiful colours, very, very retro, but also at the same time very modern. I hope that's not an oxymoron. Now, let's take a look at our next set. This is called Stacked Tiles Triangles. You probably remember the stack tiles, hexagons, circles and squares. Now this is a set. There are 25 dies in total, so this is repeated 5 times, and it's great for creating backgrounds, it's great for creating stencils, but these triangles, they could be Christmas trees. Why not? So it's a perfect time to release this set, and I just used it as a background here. You can see I've layered it up in different greens and blues. I've used the Merry from the Merry and Bright set there, just over the top, so it's very simple, quite classy I suppose. Lovely set, and it's one of those sets that you will return to time and time again. It's a classic, it's a staple of your making stash, definitely. Now, while we're on the subject of Merry and Bright, here's the die set. This is the one I was talking about. There's 6 dies in the set. Again, it's got that retro model. It reminds me of, do you remember that program Bewitched? Remember the titles? That's what it reminds me of. So there we are. There's the lovely, there's the colours. So they were just white card attached to white card and then inked over the top. Then next up we've got a lovely home decor piece. All the elements around the outside, those little fronds, the circles and everything, the starbursts as well, they come with the set. So it's all together, and you can use the Merry and Bright together, you can use them individually. It's very high impact, very punchy, absolutely gorgeous set. Now I've saved this one till last because it was very popular. We did a Create and Craft TV show recently, and this was one of our most popular dies. This one is called, and there are two dies in the set. It's called Stunning Snowflake, and when I show you the projects you'll realize why it's called stunning, because it really does leap out at you. There's one with just cut from black card and then using gilding wax over the top, and we've used this holly berries trim. This is an impressless, more of that in a little while. Then finally, again, black card. This time we've used silver gilding wax on that one and a lovely ink background. Then grey card with a little white acrylic, some glitter over the top of that. How about a bit of craft card, which has been rolled using a brayer with some white acrylic or gesso, whichever you have to hand. And then finally, classy, simple, very straightforward, nice sentiment. Sometimes, you know, that's all it needs. It doesn't need to be fancy. It doesn't need to employ dozens of different techniques. Sometimes that's more than enough. Now, let's have a look at 3D embossing, because of course 3D embossing is always very, very popular when we release a new folder. This one is no exception, and it's called Poinsettia. Now, when I talk about 3D embossing, there is such depth and there is such dimension and such intricacy with these dies, and I think you can see that there. Now, we've done an acrylic drag technique, a little bit of gilding wax to pick up some of the detail. Here, this is just gilding wax over the top of black card. Next up, again, our acrylic drag, but changing up the colorways. Really, really cool, so much fun to do. How about alcoholics? Now, this was on a matte silver card from our opulent range, and then we just put the alcoholics over the top. Really, really nice, that one. I particularly like that one. Then again, we've got alcoholics again. This time what I did, I embossed it, cut it into sections, and we've stuck it down on black card like this. So I applied the different shades of alcoholics individually. So that is our 3D embossing folder. But next up, oh, actually, there's one more. There's one that I missed. So there you go. That is a piece of paper which was torn, then sprayed with the inks, ran through the machine, and a bit of gilding wax over the top. And here's the next one that I missed. Wishing you a very Merry Christmas. And again, we're using the greens, a bit of splatter. No gilding wax this time, but equally as effective, arguably. So, Holly Berries, we talked about this one. We saw it in the first card, and this is one of our impresslets. It's a 3D impresslet, which means you're combining the technology of 3D embossing with die cutting. So it embosses and cuts at the same time. And let's see what it's all about. There's a lovely trim there. We've got a stunning snowflake in the background as well. That's just black card, a little bit of bronze gilding wax. Then how about some black card with some silver gilding wax, a very modern twist there. And then finally, just matte gold card. When I say matte, obviously it's a metallic, but it's a matte metallic rather than the very shiny one. Just adding it as a trim down the center of the card, keeping it simple, nothing more needed to add to that. Now, that covers the thin lids. But now we're going to have a look at some of our bigs dies. Tim is a big fan of bigs because, no pun intended, because of the things that you can cut with them, the different materials. And when I say materials, I mean fabrics, I mean felt, I mean balsa wood, I mean grunge board, I mean mixed media board. There are so many things that you can cut with a bigs die that you can't cut with a standard wafer thin. And there is a stunning example of how we can put this together. This is our gorgeous pine cone. And some of the fronds and leaves you can see, they come from our Festivities die, which I will show you in a little second. But before I do, how about this one? Festive trims. Now, if you want to create a lovely garland, or if you want to create a Christmas wreath, this is a perfect set. And it is a bigs, but it's a bigs L. So it's a large die. It will cut all the materials I mentioned earlier. And let's have a look at it on a nice, this is a piece which I put together just using an old frame. And you can see here we've used a brayer to actually apply the color. So we're getting the card color underneath coming through. A few splashes of white, really, really nice. Great for your mixed media makes, but just a wonderful, wonderful addition to Tim's bigs dies, his festive bigs dies down the years. This will go beautifully actually with the Festivities and the pine cone. And we're going to look at Festivities next, because this one is a classic shape. It's obviously a Poinsettia. We have these two fronds as well. So we could do that in so many materials. First up, this is with our sculpting foam. How about a little bit of felt, perhaps? How about some fabric? Now this makes a wonderful place setting. So again, we've used some denim there, we've used some hessian here, we've got some stitch detail in that as well. And then finally, I'm bringing them all together. That's our Festive Stems, our pine cone, and oh, it's got a bit battered in transit, this one, and our lovely Festivities. We've used distress inks to apply the colors, so on and so forth. So it's a wonderful way to frame one of your favorite pictures. And this is one of my favorite pictures. This was my daughter when we had a heavy fall of snow about 6 years ago, I think, if memory serves. But there we have it. Now, that is our festive range. But, of course, first, before we start thinking about Christmas, we start thinking about all things Halloween. And this one is Skelly, and I love the name Skelly because it gives it a sort of an irreverence and a bit of a fun twist. And this guy is a colorized die. There are 10 dies in the set. It has all, when we're talking about colorized, you cut the largest shape and it has all the lines in it, all the embossed lines, so you know exactly where and how to layer these up. On the back of the dies is etched the color code, so it gives you suggestions rather than telling you exactly what to do. It will suggest the kind of color and the shade that you will need. And this is a card which is, well, it's obviously not a card. My card is not currently here, so luckily I had a photograph of it. And this shows you how this guy layers up and how I've used the distress ink just to get a little bit of extra depth and dimension into that. It's a lot of fun. If you've got teenagers and they're into this kind of thing, it doesn't have to be about Halloween. This is just a fun die for the little monsters that you have at home. Next up, we've got a wonderful spider web and a spider. Obviously, these go together. There are 2 dies in the set. And this, again, is another photograph of a card which I made, which I don't have with me. You can see that lovely ink background there. And what I did with this, I die cut it from black card, and then I used a clear embossing powder to give it that kind of sheen, that sort of depth that we were looking for. Great for your Halloween wigs. You could make these and pop them in the window as well. So for invitations, so on and so forth. Absolutely perfect. Now, 18 dies in this set, no less, ladies and gentlemen. And this one is called Trick or Treater. Now, Again, it doesn't have to be about Halloween. You know, I mean, these are so fresh and funky. If there's a small child in your life, could be a grandchild, could be a niece or nephew, son or daughter, these are ideal for the little monster in your life, as we say. And here's a card that our friend Josh created with a wonderful, wonderful ink background. I love that. And you can see all this detail, the skull on the t-shirt, the actual stripes, the eye patch, the eye, it's all there. It's all in the set. So even though we say 18 dies, I dread to think how many different elements there are that go together to make this guy. But it's so much fun to put together, it really is. Now, there are 9 dies in this set, and this one, let's have a look at this. This is called Gatekeeper. Now this goes perfectly with one of the next die sets, which is coming up. But I'll show you it on a card front at the moment. This is the Gatekeeper, so you can see it's standing proud of the card. We've got a lovely sentiment in the center there. It's very, very detailed. You do get some detailed dies which add to this, so you can do it in different shades. You've got the moon as well. You've got those lovely bats, and I'm gonna go right to the bottom, because this one is called Haunted, and that's our lovely haunted house. Now, even though it's not a colorized, you can see that we have all these different detail elements which make up this beauty. It works as a silhouette by itself, but when you start adding the detail, it's quite stunning. And of course, die cut circle in the background. But wouldn't this look great with the gates around it? Or if that was on a hill and you had those gates leading up to it, would be a stunning combination. So that is Gatekeeper and Haunted. Oh, this is a favorite of many of you. I know we've had some wonderful comments about this. This is a 16 die set. It is a Colorize, and he is named improbably Arthur. I quite like that. He looks like an Arthur. Do you think he looks like an Arthur? I think so. Anyway, this is Arthur. There are color suggestions. You could do this in any colorways you want. You could get your inks in. You could do anything, because as a maker, the creativity is in your hands, of course, and we do want to see. We really want to see what you guys are doing with this. That's quite important. So if you have any makes, send them in. Really, we'd love to see them. So this is Arthur. As I said, 18 dies. This is something that our friend Josh made. Again, you can see he's used quite a monochromatic palette here. He's used those lovely browns, and you can see the embossed detail of the feathers in there as well. Really, really cool die. Wonderful set. Great for wrapping up the whole Halloween vibe as well. And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings me to my... Now, I don't know about you, Andy, but when we straighten it... How's your back? Is it all right? Yeah, me too. It's backbreaking work, but we love it. Thank you so much for joining us. And again, if you want to know more, if you want to see more inspiration, go to the website, go to Tim Holtz Hub. There's a wonderful video which Tim has made explaining what his inspiration was for these dies, showing, as I said, some really, really cool makes, some fantastic makes. These are just stuff that we put together here in the UK. So thank you very much. I'm so happy. I am so proud to be able to share these with you. I do hope you enjoy them. So thank you for joining us. I've been Pete. He's been Andy.